The Bible tells us that God is love, so it's not surprising that we'd find miraculous and providential events tied to couples' love stories. We'll dive into some of those stories next on this episode of Stories of Faith. Hello and welcome to Stories of Faith. It's a program where we talk about God's love and about His power and how He's interested in our daily lives. With me is Sayuri Rodriguez. Welcome, Sayuri.
Thank you.
And we love doing these programs, don't we?
We sure do.
And I'm surprised at how many stories we've been able to come up with. And if the folks at home could see on my computer the folder full of stories that we've yet to tell, they'd say, you guys get busy, start telling more stories.
Yeah. And I've had people telling me, keep on doing them.
Keep on doing these stories. Well, our program today is about human love and romance. And I think it may be the first time we've talked about this, but it's going to be an exciting program. There's some cool stories out there we wanted to share with you about how God worked in people's lives. Sometimes it's dramatic, sometimes it's more providential, but it's good to see God's hand in our relationships with each other. If you talk to Christians, you're not surprised when they talk about God being in their lives, because as a Christian, God is in everything.
That's right.
God helps us know what kinds of food to eat, what kinds of friends to have, what kind of things to do, and who to be in a relationship with.
That's right.
So it's important. We have a Bible text that talks about those relationships. Can you share that with us?
It is found in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 27 and 28. It says, "So God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him. Male and female, He created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, 'Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth.'"
The Lord, when He made man on the earth, He waited a little bit before He made woman. He wanted him to say, hey,
I'm missing.
there's something missing. This is a beautiful place. It's perfect. Wonderful food, wonderful environment, but there seems to be something missing. And the Lord said, you're right. There is something missing.
The best.
Wow. No.
Well.
Yeah. No, the Lord knew what He was doing.
Yeah.
And because we see in the Bible, the Lord is the Lord of relationships. Some people don't understand that. We tell them, God is your loving Father, and people have a hard time understanding that because their earthly father was not a good father. So they never really had a good example. But you have to remember that God is the ultimate Father, the ultimate loving, caring, protecting Father. And so when He made us for relationships.
That's right. Yes.
Chemically and everything, our bodies respond to relationships. Mentally, mental health requires that humans have these relationships, these trusting relationships. And unfortunately in this world, you don't see a lot of good ones.
That's right.
Hopefully more in Christian lives, you see good ones.
And one thing that I've noticed as well, I was reading an article that said that more and more people are suffering depression and other things because our relationships are now based on internet or things where you're really not connecting. There is some sort of connection, but not the relationship that God created it to be like.
During the time of this recording, we're still in COVID. And we're seeing that because people have had to distance themselves from others and their associations, and it's hurt us.
It's
not good. Now, Sayuri, if I were to ask you, before we jump into the stories, if I were to ask you, what advice would you have for somebody seeking a good Christian relationship?
A good Christian relationship? Well, I'm not sure if I'll give the best advice, but I'll tell you the best advice I've been given. How about that?
Good.
The first one is, when my husband and I got married, we got this little cards, and everybody got a card, and it said, please give us your advice. And then we started going through them, and there was one that I just kept coming back to because I really loved it. And it said, treat your spouse the way that Jesus treats you. And that goes along big ways. Like I'm treating you, and sometimes it's hard with Doug. But
you tease me. Yeah.
Trying to treat each other, co-workers or friends or parents, the way that Jesus treats us, the way that God treats us. Oh, what a difference that
It does.
makes.
Wow. That helps in every relationship.
In every relationship. So that's one. But then the other one, there was a beautiful couple here in Grants Pass, Bill and Olive, remember?
Oh, yes, I remember that.
What's their last name?
Watson.
Watson, yes. And one day, because she was 104, was it?
Something like
I
that.
think so. And I remember one day coming into the foyer of the church and she was there and I asked for her advice. What's your best advice, for keeping your marriage? I mean, I don't know how many years they were married to, but she said, well, number one, make sure God is your number one all the time. He's first in everything. And number two, she said, make sure that you marry your best friend and that you treat each other like your best friends your whole life. And I was like, oh, that's wonderful. She said, yes, he's my best friend. And then she winked her eye and she goes, and sometimes more. She was so cute. But it's true. We need to make sure that God is our number one, because if we do, then we are going to marry our best friend and the friend that God will have us and the companion that God wants for us.
Now, they've since passed away.
Yes.
But yeah, she lived over 100 years old, I tell you. So,
and they loved each other.
Yeah, it was good to talk to him. Well, we have stories for you about God's providential working in relationships. And we probably need to jump right into that. Sadie, you have the first story.
Oh, and I love this story. This is a story of two friends of ours. We even consider them kind of like our spiritual children. We love them very much. Laura and Ernie. Laura studied in Fountain View. Fountain View is an academy in Canada, right?
Yes. Some of the viewers of Better Life know that from time to time we play the Fountain View concerts on the air, especially around the holidays, Christmas time.
That's right.
And those kids are at a Christian academy, and it's a boarding academy, so they live there. And they learn, of course, the regular stuff you would learn in high school, but also how to serve and how to sing for the Lord.
How to serve, and very focused on music, their music talents.
Yes.
Laura has the most beautiful voice, and so she was able to go on tour with Fountain View to different cities and sing, and she had many of the solos as well. Well, before that, if you go back a little bit, as a little girl, she was an only child, and her biggest dream was to one day have a brother.
A brother.
A brother,
Okay.
yes. Oh, I would love to have an older brother, she would think. Well, guess what? I don't even want to go into the details because I don't know them all, but once she was close to going to Fountain View, she found out that she actually had an older brother.
Really?
Her whole life she didn't know, and God was answering because now she found out that she had an older brother. And so she immediately contacted him, spoke on the phone, and then she decided, my goal is to meet him in person. So you know what she started doing?
What?
She started drawing little drawings here and there, and then she would go to the gas station and she had a sign that said, I really want to meet my brother. Please help me to make money so that I can buy a ticket and bring him over so that I can meet him. People started buying her little drawings to the point that she got enough money to buy the ticket and bring him over. So he comes over. Now, she grew up in a Christian family, and the brother had not.
Oh.
And so it was very different for him, and it was, surprising. So when he left, it was too much for him. His life had not been like that. So he stopped calling, writing for years. She went to Fountain View, and her prayer was, Lord, my biggest prayer right now is that my brother be able to give his life to you. But it sounds so like it's not going to happen. I mean, she had not heard from him. Well, one day, as she was in the academy, she got a call from him, from California, saying, hey, it's your brother. And they decided that because they were going to go on tour through the coast, right?
Yes.
They were going to get to a place where her brother was going to be at. So that year, they went by, and she was able to see him for a whole day. And she was so happy. The next year, 2 days. And then the year after, a whole week. And she loved it. But she realized very soon that her brother was really not into what she was into, which was the Lord. Yeah. And he was into parties and all these different things. But she kept praying, praying, praying. Well, one day she got a call from her brother crying and saying, Laura, just pray for me. I know you pray to God. Please, I need your prayers right now. So she prayed for him. And she went to visit him. What was wrong? His health was not good. Because of the drugs or the drinking, his health was not good. And he was feeling very sick. Well, she took him to a place that we have where they do, natural things to help the body and everything. And it was a 10-day detox. Well, he went into that with Laura, and at this place, they read the Bible. So he started getting into the Bible. Now, because his body had been so used to things that are not good, now he was drinking what he was supposed to, eating what he's supposed to, sleeping at the time that he was supposed to, that his mind started getting, you're able to think better. Clear, yes. So he started making decisions for the Lord and accepting the Lord into his life. And his body started changing. He started getting healthy. Okay, so now she decides to go with him to where he lives, which is close to Loma Linda. And he had a business. It was a pizza place. Well, he had learned about cheese at this detox place. So he decided, hey, I'm going to change the menu. It's going to be vegan pizza.
Really?
Yeah, so he started doing that. And Laura will help at the place. And one day, here comes this young man into the pizza place. He had red hair, leather jacket, jewelry of skulls. Is that how you say it?
I don't know.
Skulls. Skulls, yes. And she's like, oh, who is this guy?
So just some guy off the street.
Just a guy came into the street. I guess there was a friend of his that worked there. So he started eating pizza, but he noticed Laura.
Oh.
And so he kept coming and coming. And she realized why he was coming. And they were friendly to him. They were nice to him. But she came and she told him, hey, I know your intentions. I just want you to know that our lives are very different. We can only be friends, nothing else.
Because she's a Christian.
She's a Christian. Yeah. And she's also trying to give, good witness to her brother who is now taking Bible studies. They're doing Bible studies.
Nice.
So the young man said, oh, no problem. He just kept coming back. Well, they started inviting him to the Bible studies, but also since she sings, on Saturdays she would go and she would have concerts. So they would invite him. And he was really being just a friend, but he was taking everything in. And one day they went to a concert that she had, but there was an evangelist there as well. And he started talking about the sanctuary and this and that got his heart. He felt that God was calling him.
Really?
Yes. And he was so excited, he just continued and he said, I'm giving my life to the Lord.
The guy who'd walked in with all of the...
Oh, wow. Ernie. Okay. Now, should I continue sharing this?
Well, you're right. Yes. We do need to take a break. So, folks, we're going to come back with even more stories about God working in relationships right after this. Stay with us.
Better Life Broadcasting is a viewer-supported Christian media ministry that offers streaming programming via apps on various devices. Please visit blbn.org to support Better Life or to get more information. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hello and welcome back to Stories of Faith. We've been telling stories about relationships, and Saida, you just finished a story about a young lady who had gone to Fountain View, which is a Christian high school boarding academy, boarding school, and she was working at her brother's pizza place.
Yes.
And a young man walked in who didn't look like he was very Christian at the moment, and he had intentions on her.
Right.
But they just became friends. She said, I could just become friends, and in the time after that, he got involved with some of things in her life, which included Bible studies. Was that right?
Bible studies, yes, Bible studies.
And they went to a seminar. Take it up from there.
So they went to this evangelistic meeting.
Yes.
And the preacher there, he started talking about the sanctuary. And it was something that really interested him. And he just got into it so much. But he was also one of those speakers or preachers that just get to the point,
Yeah.
And he needed that. He said, I know it could be very strong for some people, but I needed that, he says, when he shares this story. And so remember, Laura had been praying for her brother to
Yes.
give his life to the Lord. When you give everything to the Lord and you ask him to lead and you're asking for this, he gives you more than you can imagine. Because the day that the brother finally decided, I am getting baptized, not only did he get baptized, his wife got baptized, the brother's wife, and the young man.
The young man
Ernie.
who had been pursuing her?
Yes.
Got
He
baptized.
decided to get baptized the same day. They all got baptized. Now, isn't it ironic? Isn't it amazing? Because Laura singing for the Lord with Fountain View, and this young man, he was in a band of heavy metal.
Heavy metal band?
Yes.
Wow.
But the beauty about it, and what I really would like our viewers to see, is that it's not that you start a relationship thinking, oh, this guy, well, I can change him. Laura said, no, we're just going to be friends. The one that transformed and amazingly transformed the life of this young man was the Lord. He fell in love with the Lord before falling in love with Laura. So he got baptized, started helping her, because guess what? Another thing that God did. He was in college, and you know what he was studying?
What?
To be an audio
Technician?
Yes.
okay.
Which is wonderful for her because she gives concerts, right? So now they're working together and everywhere. They started dating, they got married, and they do the most beautiful ministry. If you were to see Ernie today, you would never imagine that he was this other young man that I just talked about. The transformation that God did was amazing. And Laura says, wow, I asked for my brother to give his life, and I didn't know that God was going to use that to introduce me to my future husband, to her husband now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful. Lord, friends, it's so important. Give the Lord your life and let him take the wheel.
Yes.
If you try to do it yourself, you're liable to crash. If you let the Lord take the wheel, well, then you're safe.
Amen.
So, well, Saidi, I have a story to share.
Okay.
Now, it's a modern day story in the sense that it happened in the 1940s.
Okay.
But you're going to like it.
Those are beautiful.
You're going to like it, yeah. This story happened to a man named Marcel.
Okay.
Now, he lived in the New York area. He lived in the suburbs. But he would take the subway to go to his office downtown. So one day he was going to his office. He lived in the suburbs. He was getting ready to work. As he got on the subway, he remembered, I've got a friend. He was Hungarian, by the way. Marcel was Hungarian. I have a friend who's sick. I really should go visit him. So even though he was on his way to work, he said, I'm going to take a detour and go visit my friend. So he went to his friend's house, and he stayed there, I think, till through the afternoon.
Oh.
Well, finally it was time. He said, well, I better get to my office. So Marcel got back on the train, a train he wouldn't normally take. Remember, he went out of his way. It just popped into his mind.
Okay.
But he got back and started heading back. As he found his train, the one that would take him down to his office, he got on. Oh, it was full.
Oh.
No place to sit. He said, where am I going to sit? But the minute he walks on, a man jumps up and leaves. Ah, there's an empty seat. He gets in, sits down. And he has about a half hour to get down to his office. So he's sitting there, and he doesn't normally talk to people. In New York, you're kind of to yourself, you know. But he notices the guy sitting next to him. There's something unusual. The guy's reading a newspaper. Not just any newspaper. It's a Hungarian language newspaper.
Oh.
Now, he's Hungarian. This guy is reading a Hungarian newspaper. So in Hungarian, he says, I hope you don't mind if I'm just, peeking at your paper there. Well, the guy's caught off guard. Somebody's addressing him in Hungarian. Oh, that starts their conversation. So he has about a half hour on the train. So they're talking. And come to find out, he asked this gentleman, whose name is Bella. He talks to Bella, and Bella says, oh, I used to live in Hungary. And so did Marcel. He goes, oh, I lived in this city. And Marcel said, oh, I'm familiar with that city. Oh, what's your story? And they started telling it. And so Bella started sharing his story, which was a very sad story.
Oh.
When Bella was in the, it was wartime about this time, World War II. And he was there, and World War II had started, and Bella had been put into a German labor battalion, and he had been sent to the Ukraine. So separated from his family.
Okay.
But then later he was captured by the Russians and put to work burying the German dead.
Oh.
That's war. War is just terrible. But after it was all over with, Bella then walked hundreds of miles to go back home. Imagine walking hundreds of miles, heading for home. What was he going to find when he got home? Well, he got back to the place and he went to where his parents lived. Mom, dad, brothers, sisters went there. There was strangers living in their home.
Oh, no.
He said, do you know where my parents are? Do you know where my brothers and sisters are? No, sorry. He went upstairs to where his wife had been living. He and his wife had been living. Strangers in their apartment. Do you know where my wife is? No, I'm sorry. We live here now, whatever they said to him. Wow. He's out there walking, and you can imagine after all the trauma you see during war, he's gone back to hopefully be with his family, and
No family.
there's no one there. So he's walking down when all of a sudden a little boy sees him and runs up to him. He knows him. And he says, come. And he goes back to the little kid's house, and they know what's happened. They said, oh, your family was taken away to Auschwitz. That was not a good thing to hear. He says, and they told him, and they're all dead.
Oh, so sad.
He was so upset, he stayed there for a couple days, but then he said, there's no use for me to stay here. He started walking through different countries, found himself in Paris. Eventually, he found himself in the United States. And he came to the United States in 1947. Okay, he came over. And as he was telling Marcel the story, as Bella was telling Marcel the story, Marcel said, this story sounds familiar. Yes, it sounds familiar. Because recently, Marcel had talked to a lady, and she was sharing her story. She was also from Hungary. And she was saying, yes, when the soldiers came, or I was taken to Auschwitz, but then later on, I was transferred to a German munitions factory.
Oh.
She said, but my family was put into the gas chamber. So it was just her. And later she was freed when the Americans came in. She was freed, and she found herself in the United States. That's why she was in New York. Well, this so touched Marcel that he wrote down her name, phone number, and address, because he says, I need to introduce her to my family. We need to help her. She has no one.
Alone,
She's alone. Very few friends, if any, I suppose. So he wrote her name down. But as he was thinking to himself, here's this guy, Bella, telling me a story. And this lady, her name was Mara, something like that. He said, now she's told me her story and they sound similar. So he asked his new friend Bella, was your wife's name Maria? And Bella turned pale. He goes, yes. How did you know? Oh, wow. How did you know? He said, oh. He knew her name because he had reached in and grabbed his little address book. He said, get off with me at this next stop. So they got off at the next stop. He went over, Marcel went over to a payphone, and he looked in his little address book at the number that he had written down, and he called her. And he called and talked to the lady and said, did you used to live in this city? She says, yes, I used to live in that city. Can you describe your husband to me? And she wondered, why are you asking me to describe my dead husband to you? Okay, he was like this, this, and this. What street did you live on? And she told him. Then he puts the phone down and looks over to Bella and says, Bella, what street did you used to live on?
Same.
It was the same street. He said, and after a few more little talking, he said, Bella, something wonderful is about to happen. Talk to your wife.
Oh, wow.
Well, the guy was white and he was shaking. He picked up the phone, he began to talk to her, and he heard her voice, and he knew it was her, and he said, it's Bella, it's Bella. Oh my goodness, they were both messes.
Yeah.
Marcel picked up the phone to talk to her, and she was all hysterical. Bella was all hysterical. And he said, he told the wife, stay where you are. I'm going to send your husband to you.
Oh.
She said later on that when she got off the phone, she went to the mirror to see if her hair had turned white. I think she thought she may have been hearing things, or so. I don't know what she thought. But he went and found a taxi cab, and he put Bella in the taxi cab, and he said, and he gave the taxi the money, and he said, take him to this address. He was going to go with him, but then he thought, no, this is too private of a moment. I can't interfere. Just take him to this address. And he did. Later on, Marcel said, tell me what happened when you two met. And they couldn't remember.
Oh.
They said, we were so overwhelmed, I don't know. But his wife did say one thing. She said, I was happy for the first time in many years. I was happy for the first time in many years. And God had put them together. And look at how many things had to be miraculous for this to happen. He had to decide to go see his sick friend.
Yes.
He had to have that seat open up on the subway, suddenly, unexpectedly. He had to notice that the guy next to him was reading a Hungarian newspaper. All of these things fell into place because of God's providence.
Amen.
And God brought this couple back together.
Amen.
Isn't that a beautiful
Praise
story?
The Lord.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
Now, Saidi, we've gotten into these stories so deeply, we don't have much time left.
No.
Do you have anything to add at the last few minutes of the program come up?
I think that for the viewers, just to make sure, like you mentioned, to give the Lord the right to be able to lead our lives. He writes beautiful love stories.
Yeah. Now, there's some people who are waiting, though. They're waiting for that person to come along, and it seems to take forever. Do you have any advice for that person who's waiting and nothing seems to happen?
Well, you know, that's one thing that Laura, the lady that I talked about, said. She said she had to wait many years, but she kept praying and praying. God, your will be done. Save their lives. The most important thing, right? The most important thing for our lives is not to get married. It's not, you know, for the life that we think, oh, this will be nice, but mainly to be saved and to be able to allow others. So by serving the Lord and praying that His will be done, God will answer. And it may take many years. We may see the answer, we may not, but we are safe in His arms.
But in the end, it's better to give the Lord the decision.
Oh, yes.
I've heard people say before, it's better to be single and alone than it is to be tied to the wrong person.
Right, because of being desperate or because, things need to be like that. No, God has different stories, love stories, beautiful.
Yeah. And our first relationship, love story, is with
Amen.
God.
That's right. That's right.
If you make your first relationship with God, then everything else falls into place.
That's right.
Well, friends, you may have a story. It may not be a love story, but a miracle story of some kind. And we'd like to invite you to visit our website, blbn.org. That's blbn.org. And on our website, you can contact us because we have a contact us page. You can look at our schedule. We stream our videos live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch the programming that's on Better Life. And we just want to invite you and to remind you to give your heart to God, to do what He says, and in the end, you will have your own story of faith. See you next time.